Hey,
How's it going, everybody?
how's it going? You ready to ignite your senses? It says on my side of here, or get your hearts excited, get your hearts pumped up and full of blood.
Oh, my heart pumping. Don't want to have a heart attack.
As long as it's a Bret Hart attack, I'm okay with that. But any other type, please see a doctor.
Now we're going a bit upmarket this week. It's a royal occasion, a very
It
regal
is
affair.
very royal occasion. Some people out there might be kissing some royal feet. We'll wait and see. But yeah, we're having a
It's
look at the old
time we
King
brought
of
a
the
bit of
Ring.
class to the show. King of the Ring.
Now, what's a little bit of history here on this King of the Ring business? Because we're looking at like this event here was, what was this, like 93, but it's not the first King, it's the first pay-per-view King of the Ring, but not the first actual King of the Ring, because it was
Yes,
like there was untelevised shows or something. And
I believe it may well be either the seventh or the eighth actual King of the Ring tournament they've held. Of course, in the WWF universe canon, if it didn't happen on TV, it may as
yeah,
well not have happened at all, because they will make no mention on this show about the fact that there's been previous King of the Rings. Every time they mention the tournament on the show, they will describe it as being the first ever King of the Ring. They'll say that several times throughout the show. And look, it's not totally inaccurate. It is the first ever King of the Ring pay-per-view, and it's a
yeah, it's like the
a
first
pretty big
version
deal.
of this
Yes,
particular
it's
version,
like
ongoing version, as opposed to like your kind of untelevised house show kind of version.
and of course we a couple of weeks ago we spoke about the first Royal Rumble and how it had began life as like a house show untelevised type of deal as well. So you'll often find that they do dry runs of these
Yeah,
concepts that they're thinking about before they finally put them on TV or put them on pay-per-view. But like a lot of firsts that we've covered on the show, it will turn out to be quite a historical event, and there'll be lots of significant happenings going down on this show that we're looking at today. The
yeah, there's a lot
'93
of
King of the Ring.
storyline stuff and matches and changeovers and whatnot. And I feel like this image here with pinch from the old Coliseum video covers. I feel like the production, they were doing pretty good quality video production, and not just you like the home and rental market, like they were consistently getting their shows, but the technical aspects of putting the show together and their segments and their cutaways is coming together like really nicely in this era. Things are starting to look like, pretty slick.
Yeah, and I really like the whole King of the Ring logo and branding that they got going on as well. Everything is just, yeah, very slick, very polished. They're still firing on all cylinders when it comes to, top-notch production values.
Yeah.
And this as a whole, this pay-per-view, this card, it's probably one of my favorite pay-per-views I've ever watched. One of my favorite WWF events. It's definitely up there. It could even be in my like top 5 or 6 um, WWF pay-per-views. I just love this show. I absolutely love it, and really looking forward to going through it, because it's such a weird time, because we previously reviewed WrestleMania 9, which of course was a terrible show, one of the worst WrestleManias you'll ever watch. And
Or Jim Ross and his toga.
per Jim Ross and his toga, and of course we got the very unhappy ending of Hulk Hogan holding the championship belt above his head after beating Yokozuna in about 20 seconds after Yokozuna had cheated to beat Bret Hart. It was really just
Yeah.
a humdrum affair and a real kind
We
of
get a proper
act
match
of
this time
desperation.
around, but we also get a gimmick ending we'll get into later, which is quite funny and weird.
There's a lot of at the time in real life, there was a lot of political turmoil going on within the company. Vince was under pressure with the whole steroid scandal deal going down.
Yeah.
There was also a situation with Hulk Hogan looking to finally, in his words, step back from the business. He wanted to get more involved.
Transform into a Hollywood man.
Yeah, or try to be anyway. He wanted to go back to just making terrible TV shows and terrible movies, and
Didn't learn anything
he's
from No
looking.
Holds Barred.
He's looking beyond. You know, he's got one foot out the door. His physique, as we've mentioned previously, is looking a bit different than it had been a couple of years prior. He's slimming down. He may have stopped taking certain vitamins that had previously enhanced
He's
his
looking
physique.
more like this fella here.
Yes, yeah.
No,
Don't know if you got the full
skinnier.
doesn't have the full 24 inches on those pythons anymore. We're more like maybe
I don't mind him slim down really. He still looks like a like a buff grandpa or whatever. He still looks impressive.
He's still a mountain of a man and you know, a giant man. It just goes to show though how much of a difference you know, the old steroids can make when you're already a big guy. They can really turn you into a gargantuan super beast.
Mountain of muscle.
But yeah, Hogan, he's looking out. He's looking to get out of there. And as the story goes, he has refused to do business with Bret Hart. He's not going to drop the belt to him, which we're going to get into later on when we actually do talk about the Yokozuna and Hogan match on the show. But even though Hogan is featured right here front and center on the video cover and was on most of the promotional material, he's like front and center as the main guy. This show is not about
like a dead sticker on the video. It's just like put him on top of that.
This is not a Hogan show. This is not about Hulk Hogan. This is about the new generation are going to have their night on this night. You know,
when you used to go to the video rental store and you see some like crummy looking action movie of the week, and it had Quentin Tarantino presents, and he's looked at it for 5 minutes, went rightio, put me name on there. You know, it's like that. I might as well say Hulk Hogan presents. There's not really much to do with the show.
Like and like, don't get me wrong. When we get to the match, we will talk because it's going to be significant in the sense that this will be Hulk's last WWF pay-per-view appearance until 2002. Like once he steps off screen here, apart from doing some live events and some shows that were taped exclusively for Coliseum home video, he's not going to be doing any other work for the WWF until 2002. So it is going to be a big deal in that
Suburban
sense.
Commando. And when did he do? Do you remember what year was that awful reality TV show with his family? I can't remember when the hell that was.
The Hogan Knows Best reality TV show comes in the early 2000s, I believe.
Yeah, I thought it was around then. Because I saw it in repeats years later on recycled TV, so I never knew when the hell it was first on.
This moment in time in 1993, with what's on the kind of the near horizon for Hogan is Thunder in Paradise. He's going to
Night Boat. Night Boat is like
the stealth boat. The stealth boat.
But he did, for better or worse, he did go off to have a Hollywood career. It wasn't a good career, but it did happen. He did go off and do it. He made Suburban Commando and all that other stuff. And
he made a lot of straight to TV or
Baywatch episodes,
TV movies. Yeah, look, he
Macho Man.
he got some gigs and he got paid, and you know, as a result of, you know, being on set for Thunder in Paradise, he was, you know, very close to the MGM studios or wherever it was that WCW were taping their shows at the time. So that gave Eric Bischoff the opportunity to approach him and make him an offer, which would eventually see him, you know, coming into WCW. So like we were saying, there's a lot in the air happening at this moment.
Yeah, we're a long way from a ring show. WWE films and John Cena and the Marine and stuff like that. It's like, you know, in the old days we had our Piper and They Live and a bit of this stuff and a bit of Hogan doing some dodgy films, and we're a long way from where it's all streamlined. And now if you're in wrestling and you've got a good name or on bloody, I don't know, TikTok or whatever, all of a sudden you can be a big action movie star overnight.
Yeah, it's it was a different time, and it's not like, you know, Jesse Ventura had a pretty good run with the old
Yeah.
TV and
These are the
film. So
best, really, for actually good films.
yeah. And, you know, we've seen Roddy Piper, of course, had a good crack at it as well. The difference is, though, both Jesse and Roddy Piper are pretty good actors. Hogan is not a
Yeah,
good actor.
not. I wonder, imagine if they hadn't made No Holds Barred, and imagine if Vince had like backed a Piper or a Ventura film, would we have got something with those guys who can act, but in something awful if he was involved as producer on it?
Well, even if you think about something as kind of silly as No Holds Barred, I think No Holds Barred with Piper as the lead or as Jesse as the
Yeah.
lead would be infinitely better. Even if they kept
Oh, I
the
think it was
movie
better, yeah.
exactly,
Would
even if
it
the
have
script
ruined
was
their
exact
chances
same.
at making something good with John Carpenter
Oh
and
yeah,
Vegan
yeah,
Prince?
definitely. But yeah, Hogan, he's just you know, to say he's one dimensional is probably giving him too much praise. He's pretty terrible when it comes to the old acting, unfortunately.
Well, I think the strangest thing is when you watch him in No Holds Barred or his other films. Like, well, No Holds Barred is the most bizarre one because it's like a Vince McMahon vehicle who's like being involved in. But all the other ones are very kiddie films. Like Suburban Commander is made for like I don't know, like 8 to 10-year-olds, which is fine. It's still shit, but I mean, it's made for kids. But he's better at acting just on the wrestling and doing promos. If he stuck more to his own style, he would have been better in the films instead of trying to actually act. You know, he's just worse when he tries to act instead of just being Hogan.
Case in point, that's why his best role
And in
is Thunder
documentaries,
Lips and
he's
Rocky
good. He's
3.
good talker in documentaries. He's usually lying
But
out his
he's
ass. Can't remember like his brain's Swiss cheese, but he's quite entertaining in documentaries.
when he's Thunder Lips and Rocky 3, it works because it's
Yeah,
him being
that,
him. You know,
that's his best bloody movie appearance.
100%. Oh, by a country mile. Yeah, it's the tippy top of anything he's ever been involved in is Rocky 3. You know. But anyway, I suppose we'll
Thunder
get into
Lips
the
to
meat of
rip.
the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll rip him. He'll rip him good. And you know, you better not beat up his brother, or he's going to come after you in a quest for vengeance.
But yeah, this
And if you're
King of the Ring, the first official ongoing pay-per-view, King of the Ring. All very exciting stuff, and it gets all those McMahon hyperbole openings where he's yelling all sorts of nonsense. Opening match, you got to be happy with this. I mean, not put aside the quality match itself, but just who have we got? Bret Hart and Razor Ramon. I'm sure you're going to be happy seeing these two on an opening match.
oh, delighted, and probably you know one of my favorite opening matches of the era. I just love it. Razor looked great. The crowd, as he makes his way out and gets into the ring, the crowd are chanting 1, 2, 3 in reference to the fact that Razor had just recently lost to the Kid in that famous match on Monday Night Raw.
And I think he turns up in the following year's King of the Ring as a 1, 2, 3 Kid match.
That's right. That's right. He will. But at the moment, that's just that angle has just begun on TV leading up to the show. And the angle is going to accomplish two things. First of all, it's going to actually get Sean Waltman, aka the 1, 2, 3 Kid, over as a recurring star on the show. But it's also going to work towards eventually turning Razor babyface. But at this moment in time, Razor, he's still a heel. This is his final pay-per-view appearance as the Razor Ramon character, as be playing a heel. When we see him again, he's going to be Razor, the babyface. So
he is baby. I was watching some stuff from back then. And I didn't. I watched him versus another match where I went, the other guy's the heel here, so that means he's gone baby, because I didn't know all the stories from back then. I just know him as the bad guy. But then I thought he must have been baby just because the other guy was fighting was more villain than he was.
Oh, he'll always be the bad guy, whether he's a heel or a face, you know.
Yeah.
But he has a great opening match here with Bret Hart. This is actually the second time the two of them have faced off on pay-per-view this year. They actually had a match at the Royal Rumble. Bret was WWF champion at the time, and Razor was unsuccessful in dethroning him for the belt. But it was a good match, and they're going to give us another good match here. And Razor is going to really use his size advantage over Bret, and he just beats the piss out of him for most of the match, including a pretty nasty moment where He's like stamping on Bret Hart's hands and fingers
Yeah.
and like crushing his fingers, like really just going to town on him. And it looks like he's possibly going to just going to clobber him and take it home. But Bret, ever the skillful, masterful technician, he's able to patch a quick pin on Razor, kind of reversing an inside cradle to get the 3 count and advance. But it's about 10 minutes or so of just really, really crisp, nice wrestling action between two guys who they're both in the prime of their careers, both young and fit. They both look great. Razor just looks great in the green gear, and beautiful, beautiful. What did you think of this opener?
Oh, like you said, it's real crisp. It captivates your attention because you got two guys that can just work and they can move, and they're both in great shape in this time. And Razor's looking nice and healthy and lean, not all bloated up like his later years and that. And obviously Bret too, he's looking fit and healthy and young, and they can just wrestle all goddamn day. And we'll happily watch them do so. So yeah, I feel like they've learned from some of their other recent pay-per-views in the form, going back to WrestleMania 1 up till now, the technical foibles, presentation. We get nice charts and we get a nice flow chart and everything for the tournament. There's no like random celebrities pointing with a stick at a board that's out of focus in the back. There's none of that shit going on. It's a bit more organized and professional.
Yeah, it's a really nice production overall, and they do a good job of making you feel like you're watching something important, even though you don't even know what's at stake. It's like that first Royal
Well,
Rumble. You
I
don't
feel
really
like the
know if there's
matches
a
are the really
prize.
right length throughout the show too. They're not too long, not too short. There's a lack of squash matches. There's a lack of filler and other nonsense. It's just like match, 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 and it feels like a proper tournament. Like I don't know, when I watched the original Dragon Ball manga and anime, that has a big tournament arc towards the end of that, where it's like brackets like this, and you're like, oh man, it's going to be this guy. Then it's going to be my two favorite guys, but who do I want to win? Because I like both these guys, and it gets you excited.
And they've a really nice way of weaving stories throughout the tournament. Like different guys have different agendas, and as we've seen before, they're good at coming up with clever finishes to make guys advance in certain ways, which we'll get to as we kind of make our way through the tournament. So Bret, he beats Razor in the opening round, but it's clear from the aftermath and how he's kind of leaving the ring that his hands in bits. He's kind of holding us. It looks like his hand and his arm are just really messed up from the battle with Razor. So the next match we see Mr. Perfect, the two Misters going up against each other. Mr.
Yeah,
Perfect versus Mr. Hughes.
everyone else on the card here, I'm familiar with some various matches and multiple, productions of what's it. Mr. Hughes, I'm not familiar with this dude, so give us a little background on this dude.
Yeah, so Mr. Hughes, you might have also seen his name before as Curtis Hughes. And
Right.
it doesn't really matter whether he's called Curtis Hughes or Mr. Hughes. This gimmick that you see with him in the sunglasses and wearing like the suspenders and kind of business gear, he's done this exact same gimmick in like WWF, WCW. I think he might even appeared in ECW doing this exact same gimmick. He's usually always plays this kind of non-speaking, heavy, tough guy, and he's been used primarily as like a kind of a thug or like a bodyguard character. He even had a run in the WWF after this briefly. Like I'm talking about like in the late 90s for a little while. He was Chris Jericho's bodyguard when Chris Jericho first came into the WWF. So he's somebody that's usually cast in that type of a role. But whatever it was about Hughes, he never stays around anywhere for that long. At least it appears to me like, thinking about him now, because here we are looking at this King of the Ring event in '93. I'm kind of struggling in my head to even think of what other pay-per-views we're going to be covering that he's even going to appear on again. So this very
the
well, like
first
I
time
could
I've
under
seen him, and I have seen at least half the episodes of Raw from that same year, '93, when he used to be on the network. And I don't know if I mean, maybe he was on that. Just don't remember him.
this point in time, if you're seeing him on Raw or Superstars, he's mainly just having squash matches. Like
Right.
he beat the 1-2-3 kid in a squash match the week before. The kid got the lucky win over Razor, so he's having those type of squashes. But here on this night, he's really kind of there just as an obstacle for Mr. Perfect to get past. And Mr. Perfect, he is perfect at what he does. He
Yes.
bounces around the ring. He makes everything kind of use the he's hitting his power moves on Perfect, and Perfect is just like bouncing like a ping pong ball, taking these moves. And there's a little bit, I suppose, of the David versus Goliath aspect that was also in the previous match with Brett and Razor. So we kind of see this dynamic of the smaller, quicker, more technical wrestler going up against the big powerhouse, and it works. I wouldn't say it's as you know uh, well executed as Brett and Razor is in the first match, but then again, you don't want it to be a carbon copy of that match either. And Perfect, he's always going to be great at doing his thing, and he makes Mr. Hughes look pretty good here before he's able to get his own quick win over him and advance to move through the tournament. So we already know that now at this point we're going to be getting a semi between Brett and Mr. Perfect. So what did you think of this Mr. Perfect, Mr. Hughes Battle of the Misters, the Mr. Men?
I enjoyed it fine, but I feel like it's probably the lesser entertaining match of what was on the card of the overall matches. And then you kind of assume that Perfect's going to win just because he's more of a name and he's more popular sort of thing. But I do like post match or whenever it is a bit later on, we get a little promo interview with Perfect and Bret Hart, and they're both like squaring off against each other, like, yeah, I'm so good and I'm perfect, and they're both, I'm perfect, but he's the excellence of execution. They're both very technical and very skilled, so I like to see them kind of posturing back and forth. It's really fun.
And they're like mocking each other and like jokingly kind of, because they're keeping it friendly because they're both supposed to be good guys. But it's like, my dad could beat your dad
Yeah,
and
my
stuff
dad
like
could beat
that.
your dad. That's the bit.
Yeah, Stu Hart could beat Larry Henning or whoever Kurt's dad is, Larry the Axe.
I've noticed, depending on who you get on commentary in the era, sometimes they'll say Hennig and sometimes they'll go Henning and they'll pronounce it differently. It always confuses the heck out of me.
I think it's Hennig, but I always say Henning.
It is IG. For years, I thought it was Henning because some of them say it that way, and then other ones will say Hennig. And then so I looked it up, and it is IG in the actual spelling. But it used to confuse the heck out of me. It's like, just say it the same way, whatever the hell they're saying.
Of course, we forgot to mention our boy Macho Man on commentary tonight alongside Jim Ross as well. So, Macho, another guy who's going to be looking at the door the year after. First Hogan's going to go, and then Macho will follow shortly after. It's we're kind of getting our last glimpse of that Hogan era here on this show in more ways than one, with some of the people who are.
It's pretty fun though, getting Jim Ross and Randy Savage and Bobby Heenan. It's just like two kind of joke around guys, because Macho, as much as he's serious and over the top, he makes a lot of jokes and stuff that sometimes just people don't even notice because he throws out a lot of them. And then Jim Ross being like the straight man and that. But I really like hearing these guys together, and it's an unusual combination. You think, is it going to work or be kind of clash? But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's only the second time, and it's also the last time we'll see that combination, I think, on pay-per-view. So the first time we would have seen them is WrestleMania 9, when the three of them did the show together. And I think the only other show,
I think Monsoon's back for some of the following stuff and one of the other ones. And
Yeah, next year's commentary is some of the worst commentary ever because they have is it like Art Donovan's like one of the guest commentators and he's pretty awful.
Oh yeah, that's right. I was watching it last week, so I watched both these back to back, 93 and 94, as I often do, because I'm like I watch the one whatever show we're doing, but often it's like, well, this is next on the playlist. I guess I'm just going to watch the next one. And it's like, yeah, two commentators, and random American dude who was probably in sports or acting or something.
Yeah, I think he's like a baseball commentary
Yeah.
guy or something. He's awful.
If it's
Someday
not Pete Rose, not Kane, then I don't know who it is.
Yeah, someday we will cover the 94 King of the Ring, I'm sure, and get to the awful commentary and some good matches on that one too. We got a short enough little affair coming up next to win the tournament with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Bam Bam.
The big boys. This is where the big boys play
Big
in
boys.
this match.
Hacksaw does that thing at the start where he like holds his 2x4 like it's a gun and he's like aiming it at Bam Bam. Yeah, Bam Bam, still showing this he can move around for a big man, doing his does the William Shatner role to avoid Jim Duggan coming at him a few times. Duggan, it feels at this point in time, is a little bit starting to get stale. I think the whole because at this point he's been doing the same thing pretty much since the 80s, since he came into WWF. But once again, as we know, in this 93 to 94 era, he's going to be heading down south to WCW not too long. Really, when Hogan goes, it seems to start like this kind of domino effect of all the
like
other 80s guys that were still hanging out.
Guys after it's like coming along and pulled along like the Starship Enterprise, leaving a warp trail. All these guys are like, we're right on those coattails and a bit ahead of the money's going over there.
And sometimes it's you can kind of see the writings on the wall for some guys anyway, because Hacksaw here, even though he's still getting like a decent pop and that from the crowd, he is kind of, taken care of by Bam Bam, relatively easily. Like it's not, super competitive or anything. Like they have a little bit of a back and forth before Bam Bam beats him, but it's not like a super tough challenge for Bam Bam to go out and beat him. Whereas if this match had happened maybe 3 years earlier, Duggan would have been a lot bigger of a deal, and it probably would have meant a lot more to see the two of them go up against each other. But it's still a pretty good big man match from the era, and it's I definitely wouldn't say it's an awful match or anything like that, but kind of like the Mr. Perfect, Mr. Hughes match, it's there just for the purpose of advancing the tournament side of things onwards, so we can kind of get to the matches that we're kind of itching to see and which the tournament storyline is hinging on. But yeah, Bam Bam, he Bam Bam's his way to victory, and he's about to get a nice little surprise because of what's about to happen in the next tournament match between the narcissist Lex Luger and the Native American Tatanka. How did Bobby talk about Tatanka during this show? It's like Tatanka, isn't that how he likes to say his name?
Yeah, and there's some other thing he says in there, like one of those Homer Simpson gags, like "Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?"
Yeah, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you?
Yeah, but Tatanka's a hell of an athlete, man. Like he's like impressive those moves.
Oh yeah, and we've spoken about him briefly just because he's come up from time to time. He appearing on WrestleMania 9 and probably the only good match in WrestleMania 9 of him and Shawn Michaels, but he was on a real hot streak at this time. He's got an undefeated streak going. He is really over with the fans at the time, and we kind of got a surprise. Like I actually like this match between Tatanka and Lex Luger, and I know we were speaking recently about how WCW NWA Luger is so much better than WWF Luger, but I do think that at least on this night, WWF Luger as narcissist Lex Luger, he had his working boots on, and he does have a good match here with Tatanka, and they're in a bit of an awkward position though, because we have Tatanka who's on this undefeated streak, and we don't want him to just lose clean because we want to keep that undefeated streak going. But we also have Lex Luger, who's only just come in. He's kind of one of our fresh new heels, and we don't want him to just flat out lose either, because we don't want to damage him too early on onto his run. So we get a time limit draw is what we get to finish this match off. So they actually are having a pretty good back and forth match, and Johnny and I were actually watching some highlights of the show before we went recording today, and we were watching Tatanka, hitting Lex with his big mirror that he's posing in front of, and Lex isn't very happy at all.
In this era, they always go on about Lex Luger, and he's got this steel plate in his arm. Is that a gimmick, or did he actually have a surgery?
I think he did have a surgery, and he did, in fact, have some type of plate in his arm. But of course,
similar to like old Hogan's mate, who has his face caved in, and then he's got that steel plate. Now he's headbutting people, like they kind of played it up like that.
Yeah, they were trying to make out that if he hit anybody with this, surgery,
he was doing this like forearm kind of smash, like running forearm business.
And I believe they actually don't they do a bit at the beginning of the match where the referee is like imploring him that he has to put an elbow pad on or a pad over the arm, so it can't be used as an illegal weapon. But they for the time that they're given, they go the distance, and once again, people will often sometimes make mockery of Luger on his working ability, and especially during his WWF run. But I think here on this night, he had a good match, and he gave a good account of himself. Unfortunately, he's only weeks away from being repackaged as the all-American good guy. They're going to do this thing out of nowhere where they're on the USS Intrepid on an episode. I think it's either an episode of Raw or an episode of Superstars. It might have been an episode of Superstars, and they have Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji come out, and they're making fun of America and condemning America on the 4th of July, and they issue a body slam challenge to see if any American can slam Yokozuna, and several military guys try to do it. They can't do it. A couple of wrestlers come out and try to do it. Crush almost does it. But then all of a sudden a helicopter comes down and Lex Luger steps out. He's wearing a tracksuit that's, he's decked out in the red, white, and blue, the stars and stripes. And he gets into the ring and he faces down Yokozuna and he scoop slams him, and he does it for America. He body slams this Japanese sumo wrestler, and he does it for America. Even though 2 weeks before he was supposedly this narcissist guy who was obsessed with just posing in front of a mirror. Now all of a sudden he's Mr. America. He's a patriot. All he cares about is doing right by the USA. And we're never going to mention the fact again that he was like this narcissist guy who just posed in front of a mirror all the time. It's a crazy turnaround in character for Lex Luger.
I heard from Mr. Fuji that America stinks, Japan #1. That's what I heard, but don't quote me on.
Well, Fuji, he's a good source for that type of banter. But Tatanka, as I mentioned, they're trying to keep his undefeated streak going, and he'll maintain that undefeated streak for quite a while until he's shockingly beaten by Ludwig Borga, who beats him with one finger on his chest out of nowhere, which pretty much they just kill off the Tatanka babyface run out of nowhere when they do that. I don't know why they ever decided to do that. And we'll get to what happens to Tatanka when we move further into the 90s on different shows.
Once Tatanka's no longer part of WWF, do you ever see him again in any other promotions or anything?
He hardly ever turns up anywhere. He does return to the WWE as it is in the mid-2000s. He gets another kind of short run, but in between from like the mid-90s to the mid-2000s, apart from doing like random independent shows, he kind of falls off the radar. He never goes to WCW or ECW or
so I guess he's like semi-retired or whatever.
Yeah, these days I think he's pretty much done. But if you are curious, you could probably look up, I think some WWE pay-per-views from around 2005, you'd see him appear on them. He's in like a tag match. I think he he tags with Matt Hardy on one of the pay-per-views from around that time, which is pretty random.
I think he
But
turns up in a random Royal Rumble or something too, because occasionally you get
oh yeah,
like old time guys like Duggan or someone will come running out on a post 2000s Rumble just for an appearance, you know.
he's the perfect type of classic gimmick performer to bring out for that kind of
Yeah,
nostalgia
I do
pop.
love that in the later post 2000 Rumbles when they get some of the 80s old timers coming out just for, you know, just a name recognition and turn up and do a quick bit and they're off again.
But you know, the finish of this match between Tatanka and Luger, it does accomplish a couple of things, because not only do we save both guys from taking a loss, it also gives us now a storyline explanation as to why Bam Bam Bigelow is going to get a bye. He will not have to wrestle the next match. And we've seen them do this type of thing before, like when we did our review of WrestleMania 4 and talked about that tournament. Like, they are always very creative when it comes to coming up with storyline explanations for certain things to happen in the tournament. Like, this seems like the third time now we've spoken about a WWF tournament where someone got a bye into advancing because somebody couldn't do a match, or some match went to a draw or a double DQ or something like that. So it's a convenient way for Bam Bam Bigelow to get a free pass for the next round, which gives him an extra bit of heat. And then he's going to meet the winner of the Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect match, which I suppose it's a good time to talk about that. What do you think? Is it the best match on the card, this Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect match? Lots of people would think it is.
I really enjoyed it because it's like he had great opener with Razor Ramon and Bret Hart, and I mean, as good as they both are, they're like, you know, kind of Ramon kind of like towers over Bret Hart. Whereas with Mr. Perfect is obviously more of a technical wrestler. He's a more similar size and height to Bret Hart, so you know they're going to be able to do a better match just because they're physically closer in weight and size and that, so they can do a bit more without destroying each other. So you know you're going to see some good moves and, you know, more crisp wrestling, more technical wrestling, which is kind of rare for WWF aside from like these guys. I know there's other dudes that turn up here and there that can actually wrestle, but most of the time they're not really showcased terribly well. You know, like you've had, I don't know, Bob Backlund or whoever. So I love seeing guys who can actually wrestle and who have that real heritage, like not just of them, but like their fathers and their families and whatnot, and they're like next generation and they've grown up with the business and grown up with wrestling, and it really shows off from like just the way they move and just everything they do is just like so beautiful to watch. It's like watching a ballet, but it's wrestling.
Yeah, it is a thing of beauty, and they had a match a couple of years prior at SummerSlam where for the Intercontinental belt that was like a classic at the time, and they're really kind of going out of their way here to kind of give us a high quality match again. And like you said, they're so evenly matched in terms of size and their technical abilities, and they just have excellent
Those German
chemistry.
suplexes from Mr. Perfect, or what do they call it? The Perfect Plex or whatever.
Perfect
Those are
flex,
the best
yeah.
ones you see until Kurt Angle comes along, you know.
And everything he does do it perfectly. And even the way he bumps and takes moves that Brett delivers, and they really play up on this in this match. This Brett's hand has been quite injured from the previous match with Razor, because even when he comes out for the match, his fingers are all taped up and taped together. And there's a few times during this match where Mr. Perfect is going to take advantage of that. But they play it in such a way that the crowd never really sides with one over the other. They're both presented as good sportsman-like competitors. And there's even a moment where, you know, Brett will get flung out of the ring and Mr. Perfect will go and hold the ropes for him to get back into the ring as a kind of show of respect and to show that, you know, I'm not going to cheat to beat you, or I'm not going to humiliate you. We're just going to have this competitive match that's based on respect, and we're both just going to try and win and advance in the tournament. And, you know, the crowd just love it. They're just going
Yeah.
wild for it because, you know, they're reversing moves on each other and doing all sorts of magic in the ring.
Another aspect I like of the tournament format here is that it helps showcase guys who who just are really fit and who can actually come back and do another match, like Hart, perfect. Much as a commentary here, but he's at other events where he's done 2 or 3 matches on one night, or like a Ric Flair style guys that can just have got amazing cardio conditioning and amazing conditioning who can come back and actually do multiple matches or wrestle a longer match. It really helps showcase that aspect too, because it's not something you're going to see Hulk Hogan doing or Yokozuna or Old Age Under the Giant. You're not going to see them doing long matches or multiple matches because they haven't got the wind, and they're older guys by now. They just can't do it.
And Brett, he's going to catch the quick win again here. I think I got my finishes mixed up earlier. I thought he beat Razor with the reverse small package. It's actually perfect. He beats with the reverse small package. With Razor, he beat him with the reverse and the suplex when he was coming off the rope. Razor was going to do like a back suplex off the middle rope on him, and Brett reversed it. But yeah, in this one, he kind of catches perfect and rules him up out of the reverse cradle, and just a really nice, slick, smooth match between two guys who are just, like I said, they have excellent chemistry. They're almost flawless, especially when you put them up against each other in the ring. And
excellence versus perfection.
Yeah, and yeah, excellence versus perfection. And it's that's 2 out of the 3 Brett matches we're going to see in the show. And so far, he's 2 for 2 for just having great matches. Like the opening match with Razor was really, really good. And now he's had this great match with Mr. Perfect. And we will briefly stop discussing the tournament because the next match has nothing to do with the tournament. The next match is,
feels like a WrestleMania 9 part 2.
Yes, yeah. WrestleMania 9, The Revenge.
Revenge.
And also
Yokozuna versus Hulk Hogan. And this is another one of those ones where, it's very of the era where we've got our professional pay-per-view, when we've got our format, we've got our tournament, but now we feel like we have to stop the tournament to shove in the big recognized name guy in a match that's not part of the event or tournament. It could have been on any other show or thing, and they kind of do that in some of these ones in this era. And then as they get a little bit better, their pay-per-views make more sense, where if they're going to have a match like this, it's usually at the end rather than maybe after the tournament, have like a title belt match or whatever built up from a story, rather than just who have we got? We've got this guy who's the most recognized wrestler in the world versus the other guy that we've built up, but who's keeps getting fatter and not in great health, even though he can still move and work and do all this. And it just feels like why is this here? It's just like contractually obliged match between these two guys because we had to sort of put it in this sort of match.
We had to get the belt off Hogan. That's what we had to do.
Yes.
Because
it's business. It's a business match. It's not for entertainment. Not that it's a bad match as such, but just it's a business match for business reasons. It's not for entertainment, pleasing the crowd match like Bret Hart or Razor.
Well, I'll say a few things about this match. Yeah, you're right. It's actually not a bad match, and we'll get into the action of it, I suppose. In
two guys that I don't particularly like to watch in indie kind of matches. I enjoy the fight.
Yeah. There's a lot of heat on Hogan at this point in time. As we've said, he's not really willing to do business with Bret Hart. He's also got one foot out the door for getting out of the company. He's also, even though he's WWF champion, he has only recently returned from a tour of Japan where he, on public TV, pretty much buried the WWF. He's been interviewed by a load of Japanese reporters, and he's got the WWF Championship belt in front of him. And he basically says to the Japanese press that he'd rather be working in Japan full time, and that this belt that he has with him is just nothing but a toy, and that the real World Championship is actually in Japan. Now, Hogan must not realize
working full time, he'd be capable of doing that when he's getting this long in the tooth. And in Japan hard style, they'd beat the shit. I mean, they wouldn't because he's revered or whatever. But like, if you were actually working full time in Japan, you'd be beat to shit in a year. You would be like wrecked. You wouldn't do anything.
You know, Hogan, like the absolute kind of barefaced cheek of him to kind of say that the WWF belt is just a toy while being the champion. Like, that's a real
Do you think
insult to the
like
company that
did
you're
Hulk
actually
Hogan
working for.
watch too much of Bruce Lee and Into the Dragon when he's doing the philosophy and the Confucianism? He's like, it's like you put water in a bowl and it becomes the bowl. Like Hogan goes to Japan, he just becomes whatever's going on over there. He goes to WWE, whatever the thing is, he just becomes that and goes along with like, yeah, everything else stinks, but I'm doing this now.
For the record, though, Hogan in Japan, his matches are usually of a higher quality than his American matches. I will say
So why
that
is that?
much
Is that
about
because of
Hogan.
him or because of the promoter or whoever's putting on the match?
I,
Why
I
is it
think
better?
I think it's because he knows that he has to make a bit more of an effort while he's over there because his usual stick
That's the
just
worst.
won't get over. Yeah. Especially for at the time fans who were conditioned to kind of sit silently and only clap for moves they thought they were good. Hogan's routine could get old pretty quick. His American routine, that is. But like you'll notice if you ever watch his Japan matches, there's a lot more kind of strikes and his finisher. He uses the axe bomber clothesline as his finisher. You know the move he does in No Holds Barred to take out Zeus.
Yeah.
That's his Japanese finisher when he's
Oh no.
wrestling over there in the dome. But tonight he's going to be wrestling a fake Japanese person. He's going to be wrestling a Samoan pretending to be Japanese. It's
I always found it so strange because like I never found it offensive. I just thought it was kind of silly. Like I mean, I grew up in New Zealand. Like there's Māori guys, Samoan guys, Fijian guys. There's lots of people, as well as other nationalities. What's not, but Pacific Islanders basically. There's a lot of different people live in New Zealand. But I always found it a weird gimmick because WWF has such a long history of Samoans and wrestling, right back to the 70s. There's like all right up till now, right till the fucking Roman Reigns and all that and business. And they've had like a long history of the Samoans and what was the bloody thing, the Rock's mother or grandmother's bloody Hawaii based thing and all that. They had their own promotion over there. I just found it strange. I'm like, the Samoans are over. The Samoans are established. Why do they have to pretend he's bloody Japanese?
have to pretend because in Vince McMahon's mind, anyway, you need like an evil foreigner, and the evil foreigner,
Yeah,
like
I get the imperial sort of aspect of it, but I just find it so strange.
it
I
is.
guess another
It's
thing is
strange
that
at
he's
this point in the
sumo because
90s. It's
he's big,
strange.
but like he doesn't seem to really have the sumo skills. Like although I did like seeing another fight Earthquake or whatever, who's one of the rare non-Japanese dudes to go over and do sumo wrestling in Japan.
Yeah, they had that. They had the sumo showdown on that special episode of Raw. They actually put that up recently on the WWE Vault channel. If anybody's interested in seeing the sumo standoff between Yoko and Earthquake. But no, yeah, like to your point though, I get what you're saying about the Samoan thing. Vince McMahon though, he is ridiculously out of touch, and he's still thinking, it's like World War II, and Hogan, the
Like we've run out
American,
of
is going to
Russians,
defeat the
we've run out of
Japanese.
Arabs. What are we going to do? Japanese.
Yeah, it's really it's running down
that's the one. Yeah,
gauntlet
great.
of the evil foreign bad guy, and
They did bomb Adelaide
funnily
World War
enough,
II. There's some trivia.
like Yoko's own family members are going to be wrestling in the match after this, the Head Shrinkers, who are
Yeah.
presented as being Samoan, and like you can even see the family resemblance. Yeah, the guy in the match before is supposed to be Japanese, but these guys are from the islands or whatever. But
There's
look,
another kind of odd aspect too. Like in one of the few nations that traditionally did actually have sumo wrestlers outside Japan was Hawaii. That also has a history of sumo, people that will travel over and do sumo because, like Polynesian, there are some actual Polynesian, like real wrestlers as opposed to show wrestlers that did go and do sumo, but so it even confuses my head even more, like reality versus show wrestling.
and did you know that when they brought Yoko in first, he actually was wrestling under a different gimmick. He was called the Big Pikina, and it actually was like an
Oh yes,
Hawaiian
yes. I
giant
haven't seen
man.
those matches. I've only heard of the name of it.
So yeah, but he ended up being cast as the evil Japanese sumo, and you had the evil Mr. Fuji, the devious Mr. Fuji as his manager, and there's a suspiciously large amount of Japanese photographers at ringside for this match that we haven't seen present at other Yokozuna matches. I wonder if they'll play a part in the end. Who knows? But yeah, it's here. It's Hogan's last pay-per-view appearance for many years. This is actually, look, it's a pretty decent match, all things considered. Like, it's a fairly by the formula Hogan match, but it works. The crowd are into it. Hogan does get a massive pop when he comes out, so he's still, at least on the night, the magic is still there in the house. And they do the usual Hogan match, but as I said, crowd love it. All 6,500 people there are going wild for any time Hogan gets a hope spot or gets a bit of offense on Zuna. And it gets to a point where it builds to a fever pitch. And we do actually think that Hogan's going to pull it off and he's going to retain the belt against the big man. But shenanigans start to happen, and Fuji's up in the apron at ringside, and at one point it distracts the referee, and then one of these random Japanese photographers gets up on the ring and he holds a camera up in front of Hogan like he wants to take a photo of Hogan, but then all of a sudden a fireball comes out of the camera and it hits Hogan right in the face, right in the eyes. And then Yokozuna is able to take advantage and hit Hogan with the big leg drop, crush him and pin him and beat him to become the WWF champion. And if anybody's wondering, the Japanese photographer was in fact Harvey Whippleman wearing a fake beard and hat. Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. Sorry, because I just screen capped that from the actual show, from the video file that I cannot show on here for legal reasons, for contractually obliged reasons. We cannot show this feature presentation. I just grabbed a still image from it because when I watch this, I'm just like, it's a weird gimmick. Why do you know it's a weird gimmick? Because everyone else around the ring, like actual photographers, look, what's the dude on the left wearing? He's wearing a shirt, he's got glasses, he's got a normal haircut. Why is shoeless fucking Joe now, who's got jeans, brown boots, some kind of coat over a singlet, and he's got a clearly fake beard, the kind of like Cypress Hill hat. He's clearly like Guy Incognito, who just for no reason leaps up with this ancient camera from like 50 years ago, as opposed to the modern cameras everyone else gets. You know it's going to be a gimmick, something's going to happen. And I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. I thought maybe it's going to hit him in the head or something. But it does a little flash fireball like the old Jerry Lawler style. But I just like, why does he dress him like a homeless bum? It just made me burst out laughing when I was watching this. He just looked like a bum, but he's stuck into the ring. He's got to beg them for scraps or steal food or something.
It's hilarious, and it's so kind of it's a great visual.
And they talk about it before he does it. They give it away. It's like, oh yeah, this photographer is getting up there. It's like, what?
Like, why didn't they just do something like, because they could have had Fuji throw like salt in Hogan's eyes or something. Like, if the object is the
I don't mind they did
Hogan,
the gimmick, but why do they dress him normally? I mean, put the fake beard on, but all the weird mismatching colors and all that, it draws so much attention to itself before it happens. If they just dressed him in casual clothes and just jump up and do it, you'd be like, oh, whoa, what happened? But because they talk about it before it happens, and he wears all these weird, bizarre outfit, it just makes it really stand out. Just telegraphs it.
Well, look, it's a shenanigan-filled finish, no doubt. But I suppose what can't be understated is the fact that Yokozuna pins Hulk Hogan and beats him for the belt, which is, even though it's a like I said, it's a gimmicky finish, but it is a big deal.
At least they had a match. I don't mind that there's a gimmick, but they had a match. Unlike Mania 9, where I forget exactly what was it. It was Brett versus Yokozuna, but then Hogan runs out and just like, oh, I'll take this belt for your brother. Bye. I'm off again.
He's cashing in his Hogan in the Bank briefcase to get that
Hogan in the bank. But he must have had over a decade's worth of those just stashed away. The Hogan Mansion, Florida, or whatever.
And the commentary team, who obviously know that Hogan's not long for the company, they're like, wow, Yokozuna has just squashed Hulkamania, and Hulkamania is dead, and
I think
You
it's
know, it
pronounced
shows the
Puka, man.
referees. Yeah, the referees is trying to help Hogan out of the ring, but Hogan's trying to walk under his own power, and yeah, it's you know Hogan, the usual sob story, like, oh, look at me, woe is me. But yeah, he lost the belt. Yoko is the champion, and so long, Hulk. Um, we'll see you in a few years' time back in the WWF, or we might even see you again a lot
Might see
quicker
you
in
next year on
WCW.
Baywatch with Macho Man hanging out with
Yeah,
sexy beach babes.
we won't see you on the water though when you're in your invisible boat in Thunder in
Yeah, might be.
Paradise, because the boat's invisible.
So never done a team up with Wonder Woman then. Invisible Jet, Invisible Boat. That's a missed opportunity.
Totally, totally. But so that's it. That's the end of Mania for a few years in the WWF. So when you get a big kind of match like that and big kind of crowd deflating moment, you need a couple of matches to kind of gradually bring them back up. So we got a big 8-man tag match. It's the Steiner brothers and the Smoking Guns going up against Money Inc. and the Head Shrinkers. I don't think the Smoking Guns belong with these other teams, especially at this point of their careers. They are not on the level of any of the other tag
No,
teams in this match.
and when I've only seen a few matches of Smoking Guns, but like in my head, because I've seen more of the late '90s and early '90s, I'm like, well, that's the dude that won. There's Mr. Ass, and the dude that won that stupid Vince Russo boxing match.
Yeah, that's it. It's Billy and Bart.
Yeah.
So I think like Bart Gunn is Michael Barton in real life. That's his name, and Billy Gunn is Monty Soft. That's his name
And
in real
they
life.
feel
And but
like very like still it's these old school '80s gimmicks sort of hanging over, and also it feels still, although they had a lot of cartoonish stuff in this era, like Doink the Clown and all that. It also feels like very NWA sort of gimmick, like the Wild West Cowboy sort of gimmick characters, and that feels kind of even odd to me, even WWF.
worst thing for me, and the thing that makes it the most cartoony, is the fact that they shoot off fake guns as part of their entrance. If they
They're
left
both
that
very
part out,
large guys, though. You don't see how big they are until you see them next to other normal sized dudes. They're both like bloody giants.
they're shockingly going to be the ones who pick up the win in this 8-man tag as well. I think it's like Billy Gunn who
You
actually
wouldn't think
gets
that was the
the
Steiner brothers in there.
and but this is we're kind of witnessing now the last gasps of what was once a fantastic tag team division in the WWF. It's
Yeah,
slowly starting to crumble. Because the Smoking Guns, I know I'm kind of going hard on them. They were young at the time, but they are kind of representative of a decline in the tag team division. Because not long after this, the Steiner brothers will leave. Money Inc. will disband because Ted DiBiase will retire, and the Head Shrinkers will get a different version of the Head Shrinkers. They replace Samu, I think, with somebody else. But it's just it's kind of the death knells of what was once a great tag division. So yeah, we got to see the Smoking Guns. They pick up a quick win here in a quick match, which is kind of just there to kind of get the crowd, bring them back up a bit, and maybe let them go for a toilet break if they need to
yeah.
after
Get
that
some
Hogan
popcorn.
Yokozuna match. Get some popcorn, refresh, refuel, and get back to your seats in time for the next match, which is what is, in my opinion, Russia's best ever singles match on pay-per-view. Is this match with Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship? What do you think of Shawn Michaels and Crush here?
I think he's fine here, but like when I see Shawn Michaels, it's like he's finding Crush. I'm like, really? I'm like, yeah, this is early Shawn Michaels. As you said, we've seen the kind of demise of this classic '80s tag team era. We had like Neidhart and Bret Hart, and had the bloody what's his name, Marty Jannetty, with his crazy stories about murdering people that he makes up for attention on the other side of the ring. So I like this era of Shawn. Like he's got his cool outfits, and we've got old bloody Vinny in there. Vinny Diesel, big sexy. He's in there. But when I see Crush, I'm like, he's a fine athlete. I guess he can wrestle okay. But I never quite understand the Crush character or gimmick. I'm like, he's sort of from two different worlds. Is he meant to be for adults or kids? And because he's in like the third member of bloody what's his name's for a bit, the face paint guys. He's the third member, then for a bit, and then he's like Krona or something. It's just like every other week is a different gimmick, and I just find it hard to follow what's going on with his character.
Yeah, he went through quite a few character iterations.
And then when he actually does the Crush like on their head, I'm like, that was just nonsense.
It's a very boring move as a finish, that kind of Crush.
Like, give me an Iron Claw, don't give me a Crush.
But even though I said this is probably Crush's best pay-per-view singles match, that's for Crush. For Shawn Michaels, this is like
does he deserve to be on there? Like that's my question to you, because you know more of the history of this era and have seen more of that.
He was over at the time, and apparently even at one time he was shortlisted for getting the big belt as well.
Really?
But you know, his shortcomings are kind of obvious. Like he looks good physically.
I don't think he's bad. I just don't get the appeal. Like,
yeah, there's not like he doesn't have the charisma factor either, which I think is a
but with a different gimmick issue. I'd probably like him if you have a different gimmick that I actually like rather than nonsense gimmicks.
But Shawn really makes him, look good here. That's why I say it's kind of probably his best pay-per-view encounter. We're also kind of seeing the recently debuted Diesel by Shawn Michaels' side. Yes, Kevin Nash in all his Diesel glory. He's going to be the bodyguard. You mentioned Marty Jannetty earlier.
Bodyguard sort of attire, which is, to me, it's Vinny Vegas. It's before he becomes Beagle.
Yeah.
Where he becomes Diesel, he's still Saturday night WCW Vinny Vegas. He's got the kind of crew cut, the starchy shirt and all that. And I like that look. I think he looks cool. He's like, even though it was many years later, that's like kind of Magic Mike sort of look. He's like, oh yeah.
We're already seeing why Mr. Hughes has no place on the roster anymore, because we've got a cooler version of him now coming in the form of Diesel. If you want if you want a bodyguard standing silently wearing sunglasses, I'll take Diesel over Mr. Hughes. Just if you want.
Actually, he's actually. It's funny, we were talking about earlier Hogan and dodgy movies and that, but I forgot Kevin Nash has actually been in a lot of bloody movies and been quite good.
Yeah, and
not
done well.
Shredder, but like Magic Mike, and he's had quite a few good movie roles.
Yeah, he's in like a Punisher movie. He's done a few.
Yeah, he's Russian. Yeah.
But yeah, he's here. He's going to learn from his new best friend, Shawn Michaels. He's going to watch his matches at ringside and gradually learn how to become a pretty decent worker himself. And we've kind of commented on his quick rise before. Like, you see him on these early shows in '93 where he's essentially just a ringside corner man. By '94, he's going to be like Intercontinental Tag Champion and WWF Champion all by the end of the year. It's a crazy rise to the top.
It is. So like manage a bodyguard to like one champ into like company champ, and then like, oh, I'm off over to another company, been champ over there.
Yeah. When he got in to make money, and he did it in as fast a fashion as you could, possibly hope to accomplish such a feat. It was really something else. But yeah, Michaels, he escapes with the championship by hook or crook, and the reason that happens is because two Doinks, the return of the two Doinks. Doink walks out to the ring with fake Doink or Steve Karen. It's Matt Bourne and Steve Karen.
Smoking cigars as well.
Yeah, smoking cigars. And they both
next all the 10-year-olds. Hey kids, get some of the cigar smoke.
They do a bit of their funny out of sync mirror motions with each other.
I thought they were doing pantomime bushwhackers. I just assumed that's what they do.
It then kind of blows smoke in the general direction of Crush, and that's enough to distract them to let Shawn Michaels get him with the pin and beat him to retain the championship. So once again, evil Doink
there. He would have got the fire extinguisher out and all over them.
I probably would have rather seen Doink in a match on this show than Crush, to be honest with you. But,
yeah, I think so too. Who's that? Like, is Matt Bourne's one Doink, but who's the other extra one? Do you know?
Steve Karen, the man who was once Skinner. You may remember him as Skinner on previous shows that we covered. But yeah, that's the other Doink. And the man who will go on to become full-time Doink after Matt Bourne leaves the company later in the year. So,
and who's the tiny Doink Hornswoggle or someone else? Or who's the tiny Doink?
but the Dink, who is the tiny Doink, I'm not actually sure who he really is. I don't think he is Hornswoggle. I think Hornswoggle would be
I'm just
younger
throwing
than
out
him.
a name. Only name I can think of from someone I know from recent era.
Yeah, but Dink is he's more attached to the Steve Karen Doink than he is to the Matt Bourne run of Doink. But yeah, so after those couple that 8-man tag and the kind of IC title match, they were there to get us ready and to get us up again for the main event, the big show, the King of the Ring final. And Brett has a lot to overcome here because he's gone through 2 grueling matches. The first match with Razor, the second match with Mr. Perfect. He's got injuries coming into this match. He's sore ribs, a sore hand. That's just his kayfabe injuries. Apparently, in real life, he's also suffering with an ankle injury as well. So he's pretty battered and beat up as our Brett coming into this match against Bam Bam. See the two of them there facing off. Love it. Love to see it. And Bam Bam, unlike Brett, he's in his own words, he's fresh as a daisy, as he mentioned in an interview earlier on, because he got to sit out the semis because of what happened in the Tatanka Lex Luger match. They went to a draw. So now Bam Bam has had time to rest. When you combine that with the fact that he's already a big, strong guy, surely Brett has no chance in winning this match. Like, it's definitely going to be Bam Bam who's going to win the King of the Ring. But, that's not going to be the case. Of course, we're going to see a beautiful technical exhibition where the smaller Brett has to continually try to outmaneuver and outpace Bam Bam, who's relentless, coming at him and just killing him and crushing him with power moves. And we do look, of course, if you're watching this now, folks, it's probably a foregone conclusion that Brett is going to win this match, but he really does take us on a roller coaster ride on his way to getting there, because there's definitely a few times in the match where it looks like Bam Bam has it won. There's even a moment where Bam Bam cheats and actually does get a visual pin over Brett, and the referee even declares him the winner until another referee comes out and actually is like, no, wait a minute, he was cheating. Restart the match. So when they restart the match,
this match will
able to
continue.
This match
they did a
will
lot of
continue.
in '93. They did a lot of this match will continue with bloody, I don't know, Howard Finkel or whoever on the mic. There's a lot of those, even on the regular Raw show. It seemed to be a thing, the gimmick. They were just doing a lot. They were doing a match, then they had some kind of false finish, and it's like, oh no, this must continue when someone's walking out and come back into the ring, or you'll lose the belt. And so I don't know why, but they were doing quite a bit of that.
It's a great way to get a pop from the crowd, especially after they think the bad guys won. It's a good way to bring them back into it again. And it's a really nice he catches Bam Bam with this like victory roll off his shoulders to get the pin on him, and it's a real cathartic moment to see him catch that pin and get the victory and go through those 3 grueling matches. And we've made mockery of WWF before for talking about the new generation, but then pushing these old guys out for the main events. I think though on this night they really got it right. Like, Brett was the feature guy. He was the main focus of the whole show. He went the distance. Each of the matches he had were great in their own way, and they're all very different. Like, no match was the same. He did not
I would have been
use
just
his
as happy
move.
if Bam Bam had won, because Brett's still going to be a star and get a push, and he's still going to be doing something no matter what happens here.
I just kind of thought about something with Bam Bam there now that you mentioned him as well. He's main evented the first ever Survivor Series pay-per-view. He was in that big elimination tag, and now he's main evented the first ever King of the Ring pay-per-view.
Yeah.
He's a man of
And
first.
this was my favorite match of the night, actually, was the Bret Hart and Bam Bam.
It's a great big man, little man match. A great example of the David versus Goliath psychology at work. fantastic match. It really is. But
And I
I'd
think that
imagine
shows
for
how
you,
skilled Bam Bam is, because sometimes, I guess if he's fighting another guy as big as him or bigger, he can be maybe a bit sloppier, whereas where you're fighting a smaller guy, you really got to protect him and be more careful with him.
it's probably another example though of, once again, we've seen him now in these two main event spots, but it never seems to last for poor Bam Bam. They always seem to shove him back down the card. Because after watching this show, if it was me, I'd be thinking, oh well, surely Bam Bam is going to be a contender now for whenever Brett wins the belt back off
Yeah.
Yoko, but it doesn't really come to pass like that, unfortunately. But
Yeah, it's a shame, really. I'd rather watch a Brett Bam Bam than a Brett Yoko.
I imagine though you were pretty happy with how the show actually ends, with a certain appearance from one of our favorites,
Yes.
good old
The
Jerry
King.
the King.
Time to kiss my royal feet.
Yeah, is he the
He's the
real
real
king?
king.
Yeah, Brett's the pretender to the throne here.
And I like that it
This is
conveniently we sidestep anything to do with Harley Race. We don't bring that into the equation because that was already a thing. Like previously, of like, you know, Jerry Lawler versus or not versus, but you know, behind the scenes, like, hang on, he's the real king. You can't have Harley Race as the king.
yeah, it's yeah, we're just gonna. It's certain kings will be decanonized under this new
Yeah.
King of the Ring regime. I
Actually, this
do
is
love,
in the
yeah,
action figures. This is the exact outfit I've got. He's got that robe and that blue, that velvety blue kind of robe and hat.
I definitely prefer Lawler's King get up to Brett's. Brett looks like a bit
Yeah,
ridiculous.
that's one looks like something that's been made by an actual tailor and handmade. The other one's like, well, we got this at Kmart in between getting popcorn.
And the other one we're going to see, like they're literally going to trot out that same robe and stuff for Brett's brother next year when he goes to
Yeah,
the distance. But what we see here, yeah, Jerry, he comes out, he mocks Brett for not being a real king, and he beats the tar out of Brett in the aftermath of this.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and he's like, he really brings that throne down hard on top of him. Like he just beats
yeah.
the absolute piss out of him.
And
And
does this lead
apparently,
up to when they have? I assume this is before they have the feet match or whatever in the next
yeah,
year or so. I love that match.
this leads up to a SummerSlam
Yeah,
showdown between
because there's some
the two of them.
awesome and that match and the surrounding shows. There's some awesome episodes where Lawler is on commentary, and there's quite a few where Stu and Helen Hart are in the audience, and he's sitting there making jokes about Helen Hart's so old, Jules, Jesus, and Nickel, and she's in the audience, and they cut to a show face, and they're so good because they don't crack up or react, and they just stay like completely stone faced. Because I love it in the Bret Hart book behind the scenes. They've really went into all that, all the ribs and the gags and shit. They didn't mind it. You know, it was funny.
Bret Hart is actually the master in this era of doing multiple matches on one show. Because so in this King of the Ring, we see him, he does 3 matches in one night, and then on that SummerSlam of the same year, he has to wrestle a match with Jerry Lawler's court jester Doink the Clown before he can earn his match with Jerry Lawler on the same show. So he has 2 matches on that show as well. He's Mr. Reliable if you need someone to wrestle multiple times on the same night on a
I
show.
love that Jerry Lawler. Like, obviously, he's like older here now, and he's, you know, he's a little pudgy looking, but he still looks like a fit dude. And I like that it's believable he can get up and actually have a match. And the occasional show episodes where he's on commentary, and then he jumps up and gets into the ring and goes from the commentators to the match and back to the commentating.
Yeah, he's a very versatile performer, and
Yeah. And it
some
really
of
harkens back to
our
that like 80s era of like, you know, Andy Kaufman and all that sort of stuff. I just love it. Anything with Lawler, I get excited.
and some of our keen-eyed viewers may have noticed earlier at the times when you're showing the results from the show on the screen that there was a dark match for the USWA Championship between Papa
Papa
Shango and
Shango.
Owen Hart. And of course, the reason that's happening is the USWA is Jerry the King Lawler's promotion, and he actually runs that promotion. And as part of their agreement and his rule with the WWF, they featured USWA matches from time to time on WWF shows. So that's how we get our nice little dark match encounter between Papa Shango and Owen Hart. This is also the second show from 1993 that we've reviewed, the other being WrestleMania 9, where Papa Shango has appeared in the dark match, but not on screen, because at WrestleMania 9, I think he worked a dark match with Tito Santana that we did not get to see. And on this match, he's working on this show, he's working a match with Owen Hart that we do not get to see. So Papa Shango, King of the Dark match in '93. So what are your thoughts on this show overall? How do you feel about the
I really,
1993?
excuse me. Overall, I really enjoyed it, and I've now watched over the last 2 years. Well, I mean, they had the bloody first one version of the network in Australia went away, and then it come back on a different bloody pay channel thing, and then that went away, and now it's back on Netflix. I can actually watch stuff again. So for me, it's been a convoluted 2 years after about 10 years of this network where anyone could watch it uninterrupted globally. It's been a cluster of fuckery for me trying to watch these pay-per-views for the first time. Every time I watch something, like, here it is, we're taking it away. Here it is, we're taking it away again. Do you want that? You can't have it. So now I can finally watch them all again on the Netflix and that. So they've got all the WrestleManias from the first one up till whatever this year's and that. They've got all the Manias, the Rumbles, blah, blah, blah. I've got a few of them on DVD. So I've now watched all, if you go from WrestleMania 1 up to, say, year 2000 or whatever, I've watched every one of them from Manias of that. I've watched the Rumbles from then up till about 2015 because I got them on DVD cheap. I've watched Survivor Series from the first one up to at least 2000 or so. And now I'm just coming around to King of the Ring. I've only watched King of the Ring 1 and 2 and whatever one Austin was in, the Jake the Snake and 316 says I just whooped your ass and all that. But those are the only ones I've seen. So this is my next thing that I'm ongoing watching King of the Rings. I'm going to watch the rest of them up to at least 2000, 2002 or so for the stuff I care about, from the beginning to there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it as an extra event. And it's kind of like when you watch it and go back and like, is it justified? Do we need it? Do we need another bloody event? Is it just part of this like war with Crockett Crockett's out of it now, eventually goes on to the Ted Turner and all that business. And it feels like, do we need all these extra pay-per-views and extra things? That's too much. But it feels like it's the right amount. Like you'll get up to from 4 to, I think it's 5 per year now. But then when it gets beyond that to later 90s, where there's like every month, I feel like that's too much. I feel like 4 or 5, that's okay. And I enjoy King of the Ring, and I happily watch Rumble, King of the Ring, Survivor Series. It doesn't feel like too much. It feels like the balance is just right. And then once you go a couple more per year, it's too much. It's just over the top.
I'd agree. Less is more in that sense. And
yeah, you need more time for build
again,
up. And all that. But great presentation, and like and the quality of like the cameras and video, all that is like really taking a leap up.
And it's like under 3 hours as well, so you don't feel like
it's not too long.
You're wasting a day.
Not too long, not too much filler. It doesn't go for like 3 nights. You have to like camp out overnight and to watch it. I wonder what people do actually. And if you watch the WrestleMania now, live in your city, like we had, I think we had bloody that cage one. Elimination Chamber came to Perth. I think it was January last year. But anyway, if you watch something in your local city or one of those international things like UK or whatever, if you have WrestleMania, it's 2 nights. When you buy a ticket, do you have to buy 2 separate tickets or 1 ticket, and then you've got to travel all the way to the thing and back again, or stay in a hotel?
It depends. Yeah, you might get like you might get like a bundle deal for both nights.
Yeah,
or 3
I think
nights,
it would be. But I'm like if you went to buy a ticket for like U2 or bloody Dire Straits, I don't want to sit in 2 nights in a row. 1 night, then fuck off. That's that'll do.
In my old grumpy man state, it's very unlikely you get me to sit through like 2 nights of a WWE show live.
I would. The travel. It's not the show. I could watch the show all bloody day, but like I'd want to sleep there under the fucking ring and come out in the morning. I'm not going all the way home again.
There you have it, folks. That's 2 grumpy old men's perspectives on traveling to modern shows. But if we could go back in time, to '93, I'd happily travel to this King of the Ring show and be among the 6,000 fans in attendance.
Sure. I could happily put on the hobo outfit and get a dodgy camera and give someone a flash.
Yeah, burn Hulk Hogan's eyebrows off with that flash.
Actually, that happened to me when I was a kid on camp. We had a little gas cooker that went whoosh, and it burned off our eyebrows.
I thought you were going to say,
We
I
lit
actually
back
had one
real
of those.
fast. It was a literal fireball that went whoosh like this. I think it was kerosene, and we lost our eyebrows. We're joking about the eyebrows and all the food we're cooking.
I thought you were going to say, I had this little camera when I was a kid and it blew up in my face, but no.
Yeah,
that
no,
didn't
it was a
happen,
little
thankfully.
cooker. Like it was no bigger than the camera. It was a little thing size of your fist, little kerosene cooker with a thing on top. You put a tiny pot. We were camping, like we were, camping overnight in the bloody wilderness sort of thing. We were about 12, 13. And it was someone else's cooker, but we had it on. We didn't know it was going to happen. And it must have leaked out some fumes because all of a sudden it went whoosh, and this big fireball went like big right in our faces, and we lit back. And then afterwards we noticed our eyebrows were completely gone.
Good times when you're young and dumb and do stupid things.
Yeah. But next week we'll be back. Going to check out some, go down south, check out some Great American Bash. I mean, this tickets is 85, but the one we're looking at will be from 86. But the card, which is kind of like a touring show rather than a single event, kind of like changed around, but had 80% the same matches and people for, over a period of a year or so. And became another ongoing thing. But it's one of the other memorable sort of events and stuff from the old NWA and Crockett era, along with old STARRCADE, of course, and Clash.
We always like nipping down south for a bit of a change and see what's going on the other side of the fence and
dusty roads, baby, dusty
Crockett's. Yeah, we'll travel those dusty roads down south to see what's going on at the Bash, the Freedom Challenge. Though it's the 86 one, so there won't be a Freedom Challenge, but still.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
It'll be mean and on your screen. And following week, we're thinking of having looking at something else a bit different, something that didn't go too well. Was the AWA Super Clash 3, which was their official pay-per-view.
It's a clash. It might have not went too super, but it's definitely a clash.
I know Jerry Lawler's talked about not getting paid at multiple documentaries.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of workers who were shortchanged that night, but we won't have to worry about that because we'll just be enjoying the show.
And Sergeant Slaughter's in there.
Yeah, look, there's going to be quite a few of our favorites on the night, so we do hope you'll join us for not just our Great American Bash, but also our Super Clash, and it rhymes. So you have to join us for that reason alone.
Super Clash at the American Bash.
Oh yeah, the Great American Super Clash Bash. I hope everybody had a good time enjoying us yapping about King of the Ring. Let us know if you've watched King of the Ring, if you enjoyed it as a show, if you enjoyed the King of the Ring as a concept. Do you think it should be brought back as a full-time big show, or do you think there's too many big shows and we just need less shows? Let us know.
Yeah, bring back the Paul White pay-per-view. That's what I say. That'll be a big show.
Well, it's the big show. Yeah. Get those mega bucks.
But yeah, thanks for checking out the show, guys, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Take care, folks. Stay safe.